Well, we're about 12 months away from a vote on this Indigenous Voice to the Parliament to enshrine it via referendum in our Constitution. Now, it's passing strange to me that there's no detail out there. All we know is what we find out, or gets picked up or leaked and reported into the papers. I like this stuff in recent days, that there'll be no funded yes and no campaign, mainly because they don't want to fund a no campaign, and they'll rely on the corporates to fund yes. But also this concern now that the Voice is just the early vehicle for the treaty negotiations, the reparations or compensation for Aboriginal people, and this exercise in truth-telling for Aboriginal people of today to talk about the crimes that occurred 200 or 300 years ago. That's where we are now. Jacinta Price is the CLP Senator for the Northern Territory. She's been a critic of the Voice for all the right reasons. She wants Australians treated by the character of their hearts and their souls and not the colour of their skins, as do I. She joins me now. Jacinta, we have no real details, no formal details from government. All we get is what we glean from the media. But clearly this Voice is where we will now operate treaty negotiations. So a nation negotiating a treaty with itself, which doesn't make sense in any realm of international law. It's what's happening in Victoria. What do you make of it?
Look, I think no business in their right mind would, no bank would agree to hand over millions of dollars to a business without a business proposal. This is effectively signing away a blank cheque to the government. Well, not even to the government, really. I mean, it's about signing it over to. There's a power shift. There's a demand for power from an entity that we don't even know what the makeup is, what it's supposed to do, who is responsible for it, but it's signing away a blank cheque. And it's on the premise, it's based on race. It's dividing Australians along the lines of race. It's based on this idea of the Uluru Statement, which was signed by 250 unelected individuals, but has now become representative of all Aboriginal Australians, which is deeply insulting because we don't do it to any other racial group of people in Australia. So why then are we constantly being subject to this as Aboriginal Australians, and why can't we do as what we fought for, be recognised as Australian citizens in this country, treated equally, not above anybody else and not below anybody else? This is very dangerous stuff going forward, and that there's political leaders out there who are prepared to support the signing of this blank cheque. It's really concerning.
So what also concerns me when I looked at the Victorian example, they created a voice to the Victorian Parliament of a sorts, and all the eligible Aboriginal people in Victoria got a vote, but around 7% of the Aboriginal eligible voter voted. So a tiny percentage of Aboriginal people voted. It will now be imposed on all Aboriginal people, so 93% who didn't even vote, for the people elected then to go forward with this treaty negotiation. There could be the same circumstance, and you're in the NT, you've got a larger Indigenous population up there, where it's all the cultural Aboriginal elites that get elected to then impose their will, not just on the rest of the country, but on Aboriginal people who don't even know what this Voice is about, or how the Voice is going to practically fix their lives.
That's exactly right. People in the bush don't have a clue. But the likes of Allegra Spender think this is a wonderful opportunity to be able to support all First Nations people. I mean, how ignorant are MPs such as herself to think that somehow the Uluru Statement, the Voice proposition, is about supporting marginalised Aboriginal people from the bush, when marginalised Aboriginal people from the bush are being ignored throughout this whole process, because anyone who speaks to them, they will tell you, what's the Voice? You know, what's this referendum? What's it all about? We're just worrying about the day-to-day. We're worrying about making sure we don't get beaten up. We're worrying about making sure that our kids get fed. We're worrying about ensuring, that our kids aren't, joyriding and ram-raiding police cars at night. Like, they're the sorts of concerns that the elites don't care for, and this whole exercise is turning out to be more for those who have non-Aboriginal, non-Indigenous guilt, white guilt in this nation, about making them feel better about who they are as individuals, pretending as though they're doing something for marginalised Aboriginal Australians when in fact they're doing nothing but signing over a blank cheque to the elite.
Yeah, it's a real concern, Jacinta Price, thank you. We will come back to that issue more and more, but yes, it is a voice, but it is a hell of a lot more, as we are finding out, not told properly, just finding out by reports in the newspaper.